A scientist develops a roll of film in his darkroom, and something is wrong with the pictures. Burned across every frame is a line of white numbers, a countdown. He blinks, and the numbers are still there, floating in the air in front of his eyes, ticking down, second by second, toward a moment he cannot name. He shuts his eyes. They glow behind his eyelids. There is no camera to unplug, no screen to smash. The universe itself is counting down, and it is counting down for him. So let me spoil the ending right now, because this is one of the few stories where the ending is the only hopeful thing in it. It ends in a field of locusts. Hold on to that. A field of locusts. By the time we get there, it will mean everything. But to understand the countdown, we have to start with the dying. All over the world, the finest physicists alive are killing themselves. Not the failures, the best. The ones at the edge of everything we know. One of them is a brilliant young woman named Yang Dong, and she leaves behind a single line. Physics, she writes, has never existed. Think about what that sentence has to cost a physicist. She has spent her life trusting that the universe obeys laws, that if you drop a stone 1,000 times, it falls 1,000 times the same. And somewhere in her research, she stopped believing it. She didn't lose her mind. She lost the ground under it. And she was not the last. The government is terrified, and they pull in an outsider to see what the scientists cannot. His name is Wang Miao, a nanotechnology researcher, a calm, rational man. Across the table sits his opposite, a detective named Cixin. Everyone calls him Da Shi, crude, chain-smoking, hated by his bosses, and the sharpest instrument in the room. He lives by one rule, and he says it like a shrug. Anything sufficiently weird in his experience is worth being suspicious of. Remember that shrug. It's the only thing that will still be standing at the end. A general tells Wang the truth in one quiet sentence. All of human history, he says, has been lucky. From the Stone Age until now, no real disaster has ever come for the whole species. But luck runs out, and ours just did. Prepare for the worst. Wang wants to know, worst of what? Nobody will say. And that silence is the second thing counting down. So Wang goes looking, and Dashi points him at a dead woman's boyfriend, a physicist named Ding Yi, standing over a billiard table. Ding Yi sets a ball rolling into a pocket. Again. Same shot, same result, the way the world is supposed to work. Then he asks Wang to imagine that the next time, the ball flies up to the ceiling, and the time after that, it vanishes. Same table. Same laws, different answer. That is exactly what the great particle accelerators have started doing, firing the same experiment and getting different physics each time, as if the rules were being rewritten between heartbeats. If that is true, Ding Yi says, then there are no rules, and a universe with no rules is a universe where a countdown can appear in your eyes. Wang doesn't believe it until it happens to him. The countdown bleeds out of his photographs and into his vision. A clock ticking behind everything he looks at. A stranger tells him it will stop if he does one thing: shut down his own research, his life's work, his nanomaterial. It sounds insane, so he tests it. He halts the project. The numbers stop. He restarts it. They return. Someone or something is watching his laboratory closely enough to punish a single experiment, and gentle enough to warn him first. And then the stranger promises him something no human being should be able to deliver. Keep pushing, she says, and the entire universe will flicker for you. It does. In the freezing dark of a radio observatory, Wang watches the oldest light in existence, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, spread across the whole sky, begin to blink. The background of the cosmos, dimming and brightening like a dying fluorescent tube, 1 to 5% in a rhythm. He puts on special goggles to read it, and the flicker resolves into the same countdown, spelled out across the entire universe just for him. There is no power on Earth that can touch that light. To flicker it, you would have to be able to touch everything. Wang, the calm and rational man, walks out into the snow shaking. Something has taken hold of the sky, and it wants him to know it's there. The only clue to who it is comes from a video game. Wang logs into a strange, hyper-real world called 3-Body and steps onto a planet where the sun cannot be trusted. Sometimes it rises gently and life flourishes, a stable era. And sometimes it does not come for years, or 3 of them blaze at once and boil the seas. A chaotic era. The people of this world have adapted in a way that stops your breath. When the killing weather comes, they drain every drop of water from their bodies, collapse into dry hides, and are stacked away like scrolls to be soaked back to life whenever the world turns kind again. To survive here, you must answer one question that has beaten every civilization before you. When will the sun return? Wang throws himself at the puzzle, and the great minds of history throw themselves at it with him. A king builds a calendar from ancient omens, and his people freeze. A philosopher builds a perfect mechanical model of the heavens, and his people burn. Then Wang, playing a scientist, sees it. The sun's madness isn't random. This world orbits not one sun, but 3, wheeling around each other in a dance with no equation, no pattern, no future you can predict. It is the oldest unsolved problem in real physics, the 3-body problem. And here it is written in fire and ice and the ash of the dead. You cannot compute this world. You can only be destroyed by it and start again. And they do start again, over and over, and the scale of it is what breaks you. An emperor raises an army of 30 million soldiers and turns them into a living computer, each man a switch, flags flashing across a continent, a human motherboard grinding out a forecast. It nearly works. Then the 3 suns line up, and everything the game has built, the emperors, the calendars, the armies, is torn apart in an instant. Civilization after civilization, extinguished and reborn, climbing a little higher each time toward one desperate goal that is no longer survival. It is escape. To claw off this cursed planet and find a stable star to call home. And that is the moment Wang finally understands what he's playing. This is not a game. It is a memory. And it is a warning. The players of 3-Body are not gamers. They are a secret society, and they gather to tell Wang the thing the whole world has been built to hide. The planet with 3 suns is real. Its people are real. They call them Trisolarans, and they have finally given up on their doomed solar system. They have launched a fleet, and it is coming here. Coming for Earth. Our stable, gentle, single-sun world is the promised land a dying civilization has spent an eternity searching for. The countdown, the flickering stars, the dying scientists. All of it is the advanced shadow of an invasion. And now the only question left is the one that opens every horror. How did they find us? Who told them we were here? To answer that, the story does something merciless. It stops, and it takes us back 40 years into the worst winter of a young woman's life. Her name is Wenjie, and in 1967, she watches her father, a gentle physics professor, dragged onto a stage before a screaming crowd. His crime is teaching that the universe had a beginning, that the stars obey deep and beautiful laws. For that, a mob of teenagers beats him to death in front of her while the world cheers. Her mother saves herself by joining the accusers. Yi stands in the crowd, 17 years old, and something in her doesn't break. It freezes. In a single afternoon, she learns the lesson that will end the world, that human beings, left to themselves, are capable of anything. Exiled to a labor camp in the frozen north, Yi reads a smuggled book about how mankind is quietly poisoning its own planet, and the last warmth leaks out of her. If we do this to the forests, to each other, to our own kind, then the rot isn't in a system, it's in us. It's in the species. She decides that humanity can no longer be trusted to save itself, that our moral awakening will never come from within. It will have to come from outside, from above. She doesn't know yet that she is about to be handed the one machine on Earth that can reach outside. She only knows she has stopped believing in us. And a person who has stopped believing in her own species is the most dangerous person alive. The machine finds her. Yi is taken to a secret military base hidden on a mountaintop, ringed in barbed wire, called Red Coast. The cover story is a weapons program. The truth is, stranger and lonelier than that. Red Coast is China's secret attempt to shout into space, a giant antenna searching the silence for anyone, anything out there. For years it hears nothing but the empty hiss of the stars. Yi, brilliant and broken and trusted by no one, is given a technician's job listening to that silence. And then, one afternoon, staring at the sun through the base's data, she has an idea so simple and so catastrophic that no one else had dared to think it. What if she could make the sun itself scream? Here is the idea that ends everything. The sun, Yi realizes, can work like an amplifier. Hit it with a radio signal at the right frequency, and it will boom that signal back out across the galaxy, magnified hundreds of millions of times. Earth's radio telescopes are whispers, but a whisper bounced off a star is a shout that can cross the void. Alone at the controls, without permission, Yi aims humanity's voice at the sun and fires, a message from Earth, flung out into the dark to whoever might be listening. Then she waits. For 8 years, nothing. And she tells herself no one is out there and lets the silence become a kind of peace until the day the reply comes. And the reply is a scream. A message pours out of the machine from a world circling a distant star, and its first words are a warning shouted 3 times over. Do not answer. Do not answer. Do not answer. The sender is not a general or a fleet. He is a single, lonely being on the other side, a listener, a pacifist, who has caught Earth's signal and is risking everything to save a species he will never meet. As long as you stay silent, he tells her, we cannot find you among the millions of stars, but answer even once, and we will have your location. Your world will be invaded. Your world will be conquered. He is begging her. Say nothing and live. The fate of the entire human race now rests on one woman choosing to do nothing. Wenjie reads the warning. She understands every word of it. And then she walks to the console and she answers. Come, she tells them. Come here. Our civilization can no longer solve its own problems. We need your force to intervene. In that instant, a woman who watched her father murdered by his own people hands over the coordinates of the whole planet to an alien fleet, not out of hatred, but out of a terrible, ruined love. She believes she is calling down a doctor for a dying patient. She has just become the most consequential traitor in human history, and she feels, she later says, almost nothing. The warning was, do not answer. She answered. The countdown in Wang Miao's eyes began the day that reply left the sun. And once she has answered, there is no going back, only deeper in. To protect her secret, Yi does something that severs her last tie to who she was. She lets 2 people who might expose her die on a frozen cliff and feels only calm. Whatever it costs, she has decided, the human race will pay it. Years pass. She becomes a quiet old professor, a grandmother, the kind of woman who teaches village children the names of the stars. But underneath, she has been building something. Because she was never the only one who stopped believing in humanity. All over the world, others heard her call and answered it in their own hearts, and they have found each other. The betrayal was never going to stay the size of one woman. It has become a movement. They call themselves the Earth Trisolaris Organization, and they are traitors to their own species by choice. Their leader, revealed at last, is Wenjie, and among them is a man who supercharges everything. Mike Evans, heir to an oil fortune, who has watched humanity strip the planet bare and concluded, like Yi, that we do not deserve to run it. But the believers are not one faith. Some, the redemptionists, want to save the Trisolarans, to serve them like gods. And others, the Adventists, Evans among them, want something colder. They no longer want humanity fixed. They want humanity finished. We don't know what the aliens are like, Evans says, but we know exactly what humans are. And that, from the inside, is how a species opens its own gates. Evans builds the movement a fortress that government can never raid, a massive ship, a repurposed tanker named Judgment Day, drifting in open ocean, its hull packed with the accumulated secrets of the entire alien contact. Every message from Trisolaris, every command, their whole future in a database, floating just offshore, guarded and unreachable. If the authorities storm it, the crew will wipe everything and vanish, and humanity will face the invasion blind. No idea when the fleet arrives. No idea what it is sending ahead. The most important intelligence in the history of the world is sitting on that ship, and it cannot be boarded, cannot be bombed, cannot be hacked. To get it, they will need an idea as strange as the enemy they're fighting. They will need a monster with no blade at all. To she, the The crude detective everyone underestimated has that idea, and it is horrifying in its elegance. Wang's laboratory has been growing a material of near mythical strength, fibers a fraction of the width of a human hair, strong enough to hold up a truck, thin enough to be invisible. So string them. Stretch dozens of these unbreakable threads across a narrow point of the Panama Canal, at knee height, at chest height, and wait for Judgment Day to sail slowly through, carrying its secrets and everyone aboard. No warning, no explosion, just a ship gliding into a harp of wires too fine to see. They named the plan after a Chinese zither, an instrument of strings, and on a bright, quiet morning, Judgment Day enters the cut. What happens next? The story refuses to make thrilling, and that is the point. The great ship sails on, whole and gleaming, for one more second, and then it comes apart. Not in fire, in silence, sliced into thin horizontal sheets that slide against each other and slump into the water, taking every soul aboard with it. The wires do their work perfectly, and it is not a victory anyone can celebrate. Wenjie's traitors are stopped. The data survives. And in the wreckage, humanity finally opens the enemy's own files and reads for the first time the voice of the world that is coming to kill us. What they find is not a battle plan. It is a confession. And it starts with the lonely listener who once screamed at us to stay quiet. In the recovered messages, we meet him, the pacifist who sent the warning. On his own dying world, he had spent his life monitoring the stars, and when Earth's signal reached him, he did the unthinkable for his kind. He tried to protect us. He answered a doomed alien species with mercy, and his own rulers caught him and punished him not with death, but with something crueler. They let him live, so that he would be there to watch the day humanity's hope finally ran out. It is the quiet heart of the whole book. On a planet we imagine as pure enemy, there was one being who loved us enough to try to save us, and we, through Wenjie, ignored him. The warning was, do not answer. Two civilizations, and only the pacifist understood what that meant. Then the confession turns to what is already here. The fleet needs 450 years to cross the gulf between the stars, 4 centuries in which humanity might invent weapons to meet it. Trisolaris cannot allow that. So before the ships, they sent something smaller, a proton, a single subatomic particle unfolded across dimensions into a vast, intelligent computer, then shrunk back to nothing and flung at light speed to Earth. 2 of them are already here. They are the ghost in the accelerators, hiding inside our experiments, faking the results, making our deepest physics return nonsense. They are the flicker in the sky and the countdown in Wang's eyes. Their purpose is a single, suffocating one: to lock human science exactly where it stands today, forever, so that in 450 years, we will still be waiting with the same weapons, helpless, on schedule. And then, having taken our future, they take the last thing we own, our dignity. In the command center where humanity's brightest are trying to plan a defense, the alien machines project one final message into the eyes of every person in the room, so there can be no mistake about where we stand in their eyes. 2 words: you're bugs, not enemies, not even prey. Insects beneath strategy, beneath hatred, beneath notice. A species so far beyond us that our entire scientific civilization is an anthill they intend to step over on their way in. And it lands exactly as it's meant to. The scientists who have fought this thing across the whole story sit in that room and feel the last of their hope drain out onto the floor. If we are bugs, then it is already finished, isn't it? Wang and Ding Yi break. They drink. They despair. They wait for the end like men who have read their own obituary. And Dashi, the crude, hated, chain-smoking detective, has had enough of watching geniuses give up. He piles them into his car and drives them out of the city, saying nothing, until he stops at the edge of a vast field. It is boiling with locusts, a plague of them, devouring everything, blanketing the wheat in a living carpet. The scientists don't understand why he's brought them here, to this, on the worst day of the human race. And Dashi lights a cigarette and looks out at the swarm and asks them the only question that matters. Look at them, he says. Look at the bugs. For as long as there have been humans, we have thrown everything we have at these insects: poisons, fire, machines, An all-out war of extermination that has never stopped. And after 10,000 years of it, are the bugs defeated? He lets it hang. The wheat sways black with them. Unkillable, ancient, utterly unbothered by the mightiest species on the planet. The gap between us and a locust is vast. As vast, maybe, as the gap between us and the Trisolarans. And the locusts have never lost. That is the answer the whole book has been walking toward. Being called an insect is not a death sentence. It is a description of the enemy's arrogance. The bugs have never been truly defeated, and something in the two broken scientists starts, quietly, to burn again. Which brings us back to where it all began, to Wenjie, an old woman now, the mother of it all. She climbs the mountain to the ruins of Red Coast one last time, to the dead antenna where she once made the sun scream, where she answered the warning she should have heeded. She has spent a lifetime believing she was calling down salvation for a species too broken to save itself. And standing in the wind, watching the light go, she finally understands what she has actually done. "This is my sunset," she says, "and it is the sunset of humanity." She thought she was opening a door for a doctor. She opened it for an executioner. And the terrible human truth of her is that she did it out of love. So that is the shape of it. A woman's grief in 1967 reaching across 40 years and 4 light years to put a countdown behind a stranger's eyes. A warning ignored, a fleet on its way, and a species that has just been told to its face that it is nothing. The universe screamed, "Do not answer," and we answered, and now the answer is coming for us. But Cixin leaves us standing in that locust field, not in the ruins, because the bugs have never been truly defeated. That is the note this story ends on, and it is the note our channel lives on, that the moment you're told the game is over is the moment the real one begins. If Wenjie's choice unsettled you, wait until you meet the mind who has to fight the darkness she invited. That story is called The Dark Forest, and it is next. Until then, don't dehydrate, stay watered, and keep looking up.